I'm Kim, the Abundant Traveler, and I've been to 65 countries and lived in 5, 4 of which are in Europe. And I'm here to share with you these packing mistakes to avoid when traveling to Europe. Typically, we go for 1 to 2 weeks, and the first thing that we do is overpack for this incredible European vacation. We're used to in the United States to pack 28, 29, or 30-inch suitcases that are checked luggage. But in Europe, it's a terrible idea to have this kind of luggage. Number one, it's easy for pickpockets when you're standing on the street to take your luggage. It is so cumbersome and heavy, and it's right here while you're looking at your map. You don't know what you're doing and you don't know where you're going, and it's so easy for someone to grab your luggage and take off with it. Another thing about this oversized luggage is you're typically in public transportation. You're taking trains, planes, and taxis everywhere. It is so challenging when you only have 2 to 3 minutes to load onto that train, and you've got to lug up that suitcase through 3 steps and then traipse down the train car and find your spot and actually find a place to store that gigantic suitcase. So I recommend not doing a gigantic checked luggage when you're traveling to Europe. I recommend going carry-on. Yes, it seems crazy to go carry-on, but it works every single time. One, when you're walking down those cobblestones and you're dragging your bag behind you, that bag is actually quite small. Also, a lot of hotels in Europe don't have an elevator, so you're traipsing up the stairs with this gigantic suitcase. But here is the trick. The trick to this is to actually bring a collapsible duffel bag, and I have left a link in the description below for this duffel bag that I use. It's collapsible. That way, for all the souvenirs and all the gifts that you buy and all the goodies that you buy for yourself, you can put in this separate bag and you can check it on the way home. That way you can buy everything that you want to buy. Something to note though is that international carry-on sizes are smaller than they are in the United States. So if you're flying to Europe on American or United or Delta, it's fantastic. You can use the US carry-on size. But while you're traveling within Europe and you have flights and you're using specifically Ryanair, EasyJet, those inexpensive airlines, they are very restrictive on the size of the luggage and the size of the carry-on. So do pay attention to that. And if you're going to be traveling by plane in Europe, make sure to use the European size of carry-ons. Now that we have the correct luggage, let's talk about a couple of things to do before you go to avoid these terrible things that can happen to you and these terrible mistakes. Number one, with your passport, make sure to photocopy your passport and email it to yourself. That way, if something happens, you have a copy in your email. Number two is photocopying your credit cards. That's front and back, as well as putting in the international, not the 1-800 numbers, but the international numbers into your phone, just in case they get stolen. And if you are interested in credit cards and free travel with credit cards, go to the description below. I have my 2 favorite credit cards that I use all of the time. To be honest, about 90% of the time when I travel to Europe, I fly for free. And how do I do that? I use the credit cards in the link below to fly for free. It is the best feeling to know that you are on that flight to Europe in business class or in coach, whatever you're most comfortable with, and the amount of points that you have, and you're flying for free. You're getting all of that for free. So go to the description below and check out my links for my 2 favorite flying credit cards. A couple other things before you go. Number one is checking your phone plan before you go. Some phone plans are very expensive when you travel to Europe, so please note what you're going to be spending while you're traveling. And if you need to get an international plan, then go ahead and get it in advance. Also, a big mistake is to think that nothing is going to happen while you're traveling. I recommend getting travel insurance, and I recommend getting Medjet, which is an emergency evacuation from hospital to hospital. So again, I've left the link for both of those in the description below because I am a firm believer in travel insurance and Medjet. And the final mistake to avoid before you are actually traveling is not checking the weather the day before you leave. You want to check the weather. You never know what the weather is going to be like in Europe. So you might have rain and 60 degrees. You might have 98 degrees and no air conditioning in your accommodation. So do check the day before to see what is happening in Europe. It's extremely important, and edit your clothing and everything you're bringing based on that weather. So now that we have the right luggage, let's talk about the mistakes to avoid when actually packing. Number one is packing too many things. Just don't pack too many things. Number two is not packing things that do not wrinkle. You can always bring a Downy wrinkle releaser, but it is best not to have things that wrinkle too much. Also, as far as clothes to bring, in Europe, they're relatively conservative in their dress. They're more conservative than they are in the US. So I recommend bringing a little bit darker colors. What I typically do is bring a capsule style wardrobe. I bring lots of black leggings, black tank tops, black basics, black skirts, and then I typically have one color, an orange or a pink or a scarf or something like that in a color. And I have all of my accents in a beautiful color that adds a little pizzazz to what I'm wearing. Additionally, shoes. Let's talk about shoes. I don't recommend, and it is a mistake, to only bring one pair of shoes when you're traveling to Europe. It seems like a good idea because it's super efficient, but you're walking so much more when you're in Europe, and your body is getting fatigued. Your legs and your feet are fatigued when you are wearing the same shoes every single day. So at least bring 2 pair of walking shoes. Walking shoes means walking shoes, not necessarily hiking shoes. Don't bring hiking shoes unless you're going to be hiking on your trip. Additionally, don't bring, huge mistake, convertible pants. Unless you're going hiking on your entire trip, there is no point in bringing those convertible pants. It may be convenient to have shorts or pants, but generally when you're walking through the streets of Munich or London, people are not wearing convertible pants. It's only out in the mountains where you are actually hiking. Additionally, no flip-flops, people. Don't bring flip-flops. More and more people in Europe are wearing Birkenstocks on a daily basis, which I love. When I lived in Europe, Birkenstocks were only used as house shoes. I love the fact that everybody's wearing more Birkenstocks in general because it's my favorite thing to travel with. My feet are so happy when I'm wearing Birkenstocks. But again, I bring a couple of pair. I also bring an additional pair of, say, Skechers or something like that to give my feet a rest every single day. A couple of big no-nos for Americans when they're packing. Baseball caps. People in Europe do not wear baseball caps, so do not bring your baseball cap because you're going to look like a tourist. You're going to be a target for pickpockets or having things stolen. Also, wearing the big logos across your chest on sweatshirts. I graduated from the University of Texas. I have my UT sweatshirts, but I don't bring them when I come to Europe. It just makes you a target. Additionally, other things that Americans wear typically that Europeans do not, they wear bright colors all the time, lots of patterns. In Europe, it's a little more conservative, so plan accordingly. You want to feel like you, be you when you get home and you have all those amazing photos of your trip. You want to look like you, but just remember to blend in just a little bit. It makes your life a little bit easier while you're traveling there. And the last big no-no mistake to make when you are packing and traveling, ladies, we are notorious in the United States for wearing workout clothes, Lululemon or something like that when we're traveling. And in Europe, it is not typical for women to be wearing workout clothes unless they're going to work out. So keep those types of things to a minimum. Perhaps you can go to Athleta and use their travel clothes, which are super comfy, easy to wash, easy to wear. It's a great idea to maybe use those clothes instead of using your workout clothes. And a couple of electronics mistakes to avoid. I don't recommend bringing a hairdryer. It doesn't matter if it can switch between the 110 to 240 volt. I tend to blow it up every single time, and most of the places where you go will have a hairdryer. So I just say leave that US hairdryer at home. Another mistake to avoid is not bringing your converter. Remember, you don't have to bring that cumbersome, big, huge thing that converts the electricity. Most of your electronics will convert automatically, or if it's like a curling iron, there is typically a switch. But again, kind of like the hairdryer, you might blow up the curling iron while you're there. Make sure to check the different prongs for the electrical outlets. Did you know that it is different in England than on the continent, and it is different in Malta. So make sure before you leave, don't make this mistake and bring one European plug prong when you actually need something that is completely different. If you're interested in getting the ultimate packing guide for going to Europe, then go to the description below and download my free guide. It's got all the tips and tricks for having the perfect packing list for going to Europe. No mistakes there. Now let's talk about your personal item bag. You have your carry-on, you have all your goodies, but you have a bag, a handbag or something like that with you at all times. Make sure it is big enough to carry everything you want during the day, whether it's maps or trinkets, your bottle of water, your scarf, your wrap, your jacket, whatever it is. Make sure that it is big enough to carry all of those items so you're not carrying them in your hand. Also make sure that it is lightweight because you're putting a ton of stuff in it, so you want to make sure that it is lightweight and it doesn't wear on your shoulders and your back and your legs while you're walking around, sometimes 10 to 15 miles a day when you're in Europe. I also recommend that it is waterproof. It is great to have a waterproof bag because simply you just don't know what the weather is going to be like. Maybe beautiful in the morning and monsooning in the afternoon. I also suggest, for me, I like taking a nice looking backpack. I have a Samsonite backpack that I absolutely love, and it is a little more sophisticated than a cheap backpack, and then the weight is distributed on my back, and it is great, and I can actually go to a decent restaurant using this particular backpack. Something else to note for your personal item, make sure that it is secure on your body, either a crossbody or even a small pack around your waist or a backpack. Make sure that it is secure, so if you do look like a tourist and you become a target, that they can't get to your bag by walking by and just taking off with it. Also, with that personal item bag, make sure it has a very secure closure, whether it's a zipper or a snap or something. Make sure that it is securely closed, that a pickpocket can't walk by, bump into you, and pull your wallet out of your bag. And another personal item bag mistake to avoid, ladies, bring a small bag with you. Either use it as your wallet or something, but bring a small bag because at night or when you're just running out for a few hours, you don't need that gigantic bag. So make sure that you bring a small and unassuming, don't bring the Louis or the Yves Saint Laurent. Bring an unassuming small bag like a Baggio Go or something like that. That is very easy, that will fit under your arm. It means it's safe and you can have your credit cards, your reading glasses, your sunglasses, whatever you need, but it's super, super small. So mistake to avoid, don't bring just a gigantic bag. Make sure to bring a small bag as well. So before we wrap up, I'm going to give a few rapid fire mistakes to avoid. Number one, don't forget your passport. It's obvious, but don't forget it. Number two, don't forget your travel insurance. Again, obvious, but it's easy to forget. Number three, make sure in your phone that you have your ICE and your emergency contacts. Make sure that you are emailing your itinerary to someone that is your point of contact wherever you are from. Extremely important with your itinerary, your hotels, as well as phone numbers. Don't make the mistake to not photocopy your passport and photocopy your credit cards. Don't make the mistake to not open up your ATMs to make sure that your credit cards and your ATMs know that you're traveling internationally, because ATMs are the best exchange rates for getting money, and it's always important to have cash in Europe. And make sure that you put your medicine in your carry-on and not your checked luggage. And finally, make sure you do the research in advance. So when you land, you know how to get to your hotel, how to get to your accommodation or your first stop. You're going to be jet lagged when you arrived. You're not going to be coherent. It's probably going to be a foreign language as well. So the more research you do in advance of where to go and how to get around is going to be so much better. Don't make the mistake of being completely exhausted and not know where you're going and trying to figure it out at 7 o'clock in the morning when you've been up all night. Make sure to watch my other videos on flying, as well as incredible locations throughout Europe. Make sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and ring that notification bell. See y'all very soon. Bye.